The mail coach rattled across the dry plains, its wheels cutting through red dust that hung in the morning sun like smoke. Inside sat a girl who wasn't supposed to be there. Clara Mae Dunn, barely 20, clutching a small carpet bag to her chest as if it held her life. Her dress was city-faded, not fit for ranch dust or desert wind. She had been sent to the Hollow Creek Ranch as a joke. That's what they told her. A cruel jest by the ladies at the telegraph office. "Oh, you want work so bad, Clara Mae? The Hollow Creek Ranch always needs help. Go there, tell them you can cook." The women had giggled behind her back, whispering, "She won't last a night out there." But Clara Mae was too desperate to catch the tone of mockery. She had nowhere else to go, no kin left since the fever took her mother, no husband since the river took him. Hunger makes people brave, or maybe foolish. When the coach stopped, the driver called, "Hollow Creek Ranch." End of the line. She stepped down, the soles of her shoes sinking in red dust, eyes blinking at the wide expanse of land that stretched farther than she could dream. The ranch sprawled like a scar against the horizon, fences half broken, a barn tilting, cattle scattered like ghosts in the heat haze. No one was there to greet her, only the wind, until a man appeared from behind the corral, tall, silent, broad-shouldered, his face shadowed beneath a wide-brimmed hat. He walked like he'd been carved out of the same stone as the desert. The kind of man who said little because the land said everything for him. Clara Mae tried to smile. "Sir, I was sent to help. I can cook, or clean, or whatever you need." He said nothing, just studied her. The silence was heavy, the kind that made a person question if they existed at all. Finally, he nodded once and turned toward the barn. She followed. Inside, the air was thick with hay and the scent of old horses. "You can stay there," he said finally, pointing toward a small cot in the corner, half covered with a blanket. His voice was deep and quiet, almost startling after such a long silence. "Thank you," she murmured. He turned to go but paused at the door. "Name's Cole." Then he left her there, alone with the dust and the silence. By sunset, she realized no one else lived there. The ranch seemed haunted by emptiness. No ranch hands, no laughter, no sound except the wind brushing the wooden walls. She cooked a small meal from what she found in the cupboard, beans, flour, a bit of salt, and left a portion on the porch for him. He didn't come inside. She saw him later, sitting on a fence post, staring toward the hills as the sky bled orange and red. That night, the cold came hard. The desert always repays the day's heat with ice. She lay on the cot, shivering, too afraid to use more than one blanket. But she heard footsteps outside, slow and heavy. The door creaked open. She froze. Cole stepped inside without a word, carrying something in his hand, a long, worn coat. He didn't look at her when he placed it over her shoulders. "Gets cold here," he said simply. Then he left. She held the coat tight around her, the smell of leather and smoke wrapping around her like a strange comfort. And for the first time in months, Clara Mae didn't cry herself to sleep. Days passed quietly. Cole worked sunup to sundown, fixing fences, breaking horses, mending things that never stayed mended. He rarely spoke, but he never ignored her either. When she burned the bread, he simply ate it anyway. When she tripped carrying water, he wordlessly took the bucket and finished the job. There was something gentle in his silence, though his face looked carved from stone. But Hollow Creek wasn't peaceful. At night, she'd hear distant hoofbeats, riders passing by, who never stopped. She'd seen one of them once, a man in a black hat, watching the ranch from the ridge. When Cole noticed her staring, he said only, "Don't ever go near those hills." She didn't ask why. One evening, while scrubbing the floor, she found a photograph tucked behind the stove, a faded picture of a woman with long hair and soft eyes, holding a little boy. On the back, written in neat letters, were the words, "Anna and Thomas, 1882. Clara's heart sank. She understood now why the ranch felt hollow. When Cole came in for supper, she asked quietly, "Your wife and son?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Were." The word hung between them, heavier than any silence. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in her throat. That night, the wind held like a grieving thing. A week later, the storm came. Not rain, but men. She saw the dust first, rising on the horizon, 3 riders fast. Cole was by the corral, tightening ropes when he saw them too. His face wet hard, his hand brushing the revolver at his hip. "Get inside," he said. She hesitated. Who are they? Debt collectors or thieves? Makes no difference. She ran inside, her heart pounding, peering through the cracks in the wall. The riders stopped just beyond the gate. Their leader was the man in the black hat. "Cole Branner," he called. "You know why we're here." Cole walked forward slowly, unafraid. "You had your payment. You took enough." The man laughed. "You think I'd ride out this far for money?" "No, I came for the girl." Clara froze. "Word in town says you've got yourself some company," the man sneered. "Pretty thing. Must get lonely out here." Cole's voice dropped like thunder. "You'll ride back the way you came." The man smirked, dismounted, and started walking toward the barn. Cole moved faster. The sound of a revolver cocking split the air. Then came the shot, not from Cole, from the man in black. Cole staggered back, blood blooming on his shirt. Clara screamed. She ran out before she could think, clutching the shotgun she'd seen hanging by the door. The man turned, laughing. "Look at that. She's got fire." Her hands shook, but she held steady enough. "Leave him." Or what? The sound that followed wasn't hers. It was another shot. Cole, bleeding, had drawn his second gun from his boot. The man in black fell backward, eyes wide. His partners bolted, galloping into the dust without a word. Clara dropped the shotgun and ran to Cole. He was still standing, though barely. "You're hit," she cried. "Just a graze," he muttered, though his shirt told otherwise. She tore a strip from her dress, pressing it against the wound. His blood felt hot against her cold fingers. He caught her wrist gently. "Don't cry." "I'm not," she lied, tears streaking her dusty cheeks. Dash, dash, dash. She nursed him through the night. The bleeding stopped, though his fever rose. He muttered names in his sleep. Anna, Thomas, voices of ghosts long gone. When he woke at dawn, she was sitting beside him, his coat still around her shoulders. "You should have run," he whispered. "I did," she said softly. "Right toward you." Something in his expression changed then. The hardness cracked just enough for warmth to show through. From that morning on, she wasn't just a joke sent to the ranch. She was part of it, cooking, helping mend fences, even learning to ride the stubborn chestnut mare that used to bite anyone who came close. And every evening, Cole would bring her coffee on the porch. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The silence between them had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was safe. Dash, dash, dash. Winter came early that year. The plains turned silver under frost. One morning, a letter arrived. No sender, just the single line inside. "We'll be back for what's ours." Cole read it, said nothing, then burned it in the stove. But the tension returned, the watching shadows, the distant hoofbeats. One night, Clara woke to the sound of horses again. She stepped outside, clutching Cole's coat around her. The moonlight showed 5 riders coming down the ridge. Cole was already saddling his horse. "You can't face them alone," she said, her voice trembling. "I have to." "You don't." He paused. The wind lifted her hair, and for a moment, it looked like he might argue. Instead, he took his hat off and placed it on her head. "Stay inside, no matter what." She didn't listen. When the first shots echoed, she was already running toward the barn with the rifle. Cole was outnumbered, but he moved like a man who'd danced with death before. The riders circled, firing, shouting. She took aim at the nearest and fired once. The man toppled from his horse. Cole glanced back, furious, but the moment's distraction cost him. Another shot rang, grazing his arm. Clara didn't think. She fired again. The last 2 men turned and fled into the darkness. Silence, only the wind and the sound of her breathing. She dropped the rifle and ran to him. He was pale, shaking, but alive. "You disobeyed me," he said weakly. She smiled through tears. "You're welcome." He laughed, a sound she'd never heard from him before, rough, warm, alive. "Guess you belong here after all." Dash, dash, dash. Weeks later, the snow melted, the hills turning green again. They stood together on the porch, the wind softer now. Cole's arm was still healing, but his eyes were clear. He looked at her and said, "When you first came, I thought you'd leave in a day." "I thought so too," she said. He nodded toward the horizon. "You staying?" She didn't answer. Instead, she took his coat, the same one he'd placed on her shoulders that first cold night, and draped it over his instead. Only if you'll have me." He smiled, that quiet, rare smile of his. "Then I reckon this ranch finally has two people worth fighting for." The sun dipped low, painting the land gold. Somewhere out beyond the hills, ghosts of the past watched and faded. And the girl who had been sent as a joke stood wrapped in the silent cowboy's arms, in the place that had once been hollow but was now home.